where horror lies.
Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you. VHS82 apostrophe. I'm your regular Wednesday evening host here at BodyBags. It is week 481. It is Scream Factory Volume 5. Probably our longest reigning label weeks that we have indulged ourselves in, and so we are second week into the month of January, and already we are looking out forward to February. Second week in, we'll go back to our year, and it happens to be Sam, our Thursday reviewer. He has gone with 1941 as a year, so I've already picked up my movie. I'm going to take a look for the first time at Horror Island. Kind of intrigued, so we'll all be doing a movie from 1941. And the theme will be more of a Lovecraftian in nature week, whether it's a direct adaptation or just something Lovecraftian in nature. Lovecraft has, of course, impacted our culture in ways that nobody alive around his time could have ever fathomed, I don't think. So anyways, so got that coming up. That's February, but we're in January, second weekend, and we are talking Scream Factory. And I'm going to get into, of course, as you've already seen, the Prince of Darkness. Not so much a synopsis of the film or comment on the film, although I'll give a couple, but really just take a look at the Scream Factory release, which it happens to be the 4K, which I picked up. But anyway, so I do want to start off like this. I do want to give a quick little synopsis. Every once in a while, I'll take a look in here. This is Terror on Tape. It's a reference guide to those things on VHS. A complete guide to over 2,000 horror movies on video. That is VHS release. Of course, The Prince of Darkness was first an MCA Universal release. Way back in the day, would have rented this thing a zillion times, of course, from the video store. But I do want to share with this little synopsis from them, and then we're going to kind of move on and just look at the 4K release of it. Carpenter's muddled but interesting combination of The Exorcist, The Thing, and 5 Million Years to Earth. Not really familiar with that one. Bears more than an uncredited passing similarity to Nigel Neal's excellent British TV movie, The Stone Tapes. Now, I'm completely unaware with that, but worth checking out, I think. Priest Pleasence, of course, he doesn't really have a name in the movie, summons a team of scientists to study the slimy contents of an old canister discovered beneath the Los Angeles church. The canister turns out to contain the liquefied remains of the devil. The drinking this liquid brings about the demonic possession of several members of the group. Carpenter has all the ingredients here for a classic horror film, but fails to make them gel into a coherent whole. Scenes involving melting faces, swarming bugs, the devil's hand have impact but lack the proper dramatic build-up. A good cast tries hard, but most must deal with underdeveloped characters. I can't really take argument with the entirety of that comment. I do have some pretty strong feelings, though, in terms of building up the tension, the Lovecraftian cosmic sort of horror of doom that is going to come if some major sacrifice is not carried out by those in the group, or at least one in the group, if not just those who hang and stay to deal with this. If you've seen the movie, you really know what I'm talking about, really. Roger Ebert, in his review of it, pretty much said the same thing. First 15, 20 minutes in, he was really like, bang, I'm there, I'm in, let's do this. And then, same thing, just kind of got a little too muddled in terms of the story, and really it sort of loses itself somewhere in the midst and on its way to an end. I don't know. I can kind of agree with him too. It's one of those movies you kind of wish a little bit more from, but in the end, looking at it, diving down deep under the surface, you find that there is a lot to be had there. It's sort of an alternative reality type film for Carpenter. It's part of his apocalyptic trilogy, of course, In the Mouth of Madness and The Thing being the other two. but really it's a Gnostic. It's a Gnostic film, very nihilistic in terms of its approach to humanity and the end that awaits. But Gnostic in the sense of somewhat, I say inverting, but maybe traditional view of Christianity. It is sort of an alternative reality, and so it's a Gnostic approach to traditional Christian values or understanding to create sort of an ominous Lovecraftian story. I think is kind of a neat way to spin it. And it does have a sense of dread, the music that leads us to a finale that is quite satisfying for me. And in fact, it's one movie. I used to only have this on DVD. It was I think part of a 4-pack of Carpenter films, but this is a movie that has really grown on me with time, and so eventually, of course, Scream Factory put out the 4K release of Prince of Darkness, in which case you see the Blu-ray disc in. I'm going to show you the special features here in a second, because we really do just need to focus on the release of this, right? More than the story. I'm hoping and imagining most of you have seen this. But anyways, the original artwork, of course, this is what I would have remembered from the VHS release back in the day. Of course, the original poster sheet. And then, of course, really nothing inside but your 2 discs. The 4K right there, of course. And then the Blu-ray would have been over there. It's not a bad packaging. Reversible cover art perhaps would have been cool, but it's not there. This is probably didn't really need it. It is a collector's edition, a 4K release again. The picture is outstanding, but I need to say this. Lonnie, our Saturday reviewer for BodyBags, on his own channel, and I'll put the link down there, he is a 4K, I was just going to say nerd, but I don't want to sound negative about it. He is our resident 4K expert, if you will. I mean, who really is an expert on anything? But he does review 4K releases, and so if you're interested in the newest 4Ks, he's pretty on top of it, man. He'll give you a pretty in-depth review in terms of what he thinks about the release. Trying to think of the last one he did. It's escaping me. But anyways, Prince of Darkness. So you see the screen right there. I'm gonna let you take a look at the extras real quick. We got Sympathy for the Devil. This is really, I kind of went through most of these last night. Again, interview with John Carpenter, which is a pretty good interview. He really kind of talks about actually some of the things I've already kind of said earlier in terms of the alternate reality, the origin of the story. He was reading a book on quantum physics. And so it's interesting kind of just listen to him talk about it. And then, of course, you got a nice Alice at the Apocalypse, a little interview with Alice Cooper. I didn't see what the times on these were. They go by pretty quick. But Alice Cooper just kind of reminisces his role in this and some neat things. The Messenger and All interview with actor and special visual effects supervisor Robert Grasmere. I did see this, not last night, and it's hard for me to remember back exactly. I'm sure it was pretty good. Hell on Earth, a look at the film score with co-composer Alan Howarth, who, of course, you know, if you know anything about John Carpenter, Alan Howarth has been there for quite a few films with him, and that is a really good, somewhat insightful interview with him, listening to him just talk about his recollections, reflecting on the film and his work in terms of the score. Alternate opening from the TV version. You know, I put it on last night, but last night we had our BodyBags chat, and so we're just sort of rolling on talking horror, and I kind of rolled it through twice, but I really didn't pay attention, but that's there. Horror's Hollow Ground, I did watch that last night, and this the guy on a lot of these Scream Factory releases, he'll take you on a tour of some of the principal shooting locations. For, of course, Prince, we're talking in LA, right? At some of the specific places. He'll take you on a tour as much as one can. And that one I thought was pretty good. I haven't seen all of his. I know there's one on the Scream Factory release of Halloween 2, the original 81 Halloween 2. But you'll find it, Horror's Hollow Ground, come up quite a bit on some of these Scream Factory releases. And then, of course, you got the trailer. And my fave, man, I love radio spots, man. There's only 2 on there, I think. I ran it last night. I'm pretty sure it was one trailer and two TVs or two radio spots. And that always brings back, I'm 52, right? So, as I'm nearing 10 here in 1980 and just crossing over into the decade, more than TV, really. I mean, you had the radio on 24/7, and classic rock, whatever. I mean, but anyways, that's where you got, aside from the occasional TV spot, but really the radio spots would light up your imagination. I mean, as a kid, I can remember just being terrified listening to the radio spot late at night for Lucio Fulci's The Gates of Hell or City of the Living Dead. And it's funny with a lot of films like Texas Chainsaw. Now, if I would have heard a radio spot on that, it would have been on a re-release engagement, drive-in circuit or whatever. But a lot of these movies, horror movies from, back in the 70s through the 80s, I love going back and revisiting the radio spots because it just reminds me, and sometimes I remember. Now, we were talking about this last night a little bit, I think, on the chat group, and I have a hard time recollecting seeing this film in the movie theater. It's hard for me to think why I wouldn't have, but it was 87. Well, circumstances of my life were such that at that moment, I graduated in 88, and so without getting into it, now that I think about it, it would have been pretty tough for me to pull this off. I'm sure I was well aware of it because I read Fangoria, I did all that. But from like early 87 into 88, my life circumstances was such that I would have had a very difficult time getting to the theater to see a horror film. Just to leave it at that. So I don't really have any recollection seeing it other than renting it on VHS when it first showed up. And then, of course, you got a still gallery and then back. There is a commentary track, I believe a solo track with Carpenter. Yeah, with John Carpenter, audio commentary track. I don't know if that's on the 4K disc or not. Could be. I don't remember checking to see if it was. But I just have to tell you, solo commentary tracks are, generally speaking, usually much better than when you start mixing in the cast commentary and all that junk. Perfect example of that is if you got a release of Alien, Ridley Scott's masterpiece of terror from 79, if you have a copy on hand in your collection that has Ridley Scott's solo commentary track on the theatrical cut, that and Blade Runner, his commentary track on that, they almost sort of overlap each other in some spots. It's kind of interesting if you listen, but the minute you throw the cast in there with them, I don't know, things just kind of, for me, I would rather just hear. Now, sometimes if you throw the cinematographer on there with the director, they had a good relationship on set, sometimes that can be rewarding, but I would just rather hear the director talk himself. So I mean, there may not be the world, but I'll say this, for me, falling in love with this film over time and really just it growing on me and only having it on a 4-pack with 3 other Carpenter films, it just seemed to make way more sense to grab it off on 4K when Scream Factory released it. And I am glad I did, because the picture, man, you got a very dark color palette. And it just seems like, Lonnie's mentioned this too, I think, on his reviews, it just seems like the darker the color palette, the better it looks on 4K. Even older films. I think the 4K element accentuates just the deep dark color that are being utilized by our resident artist directors, right? And so it's interesting to think about. I don't know if there's really anything much to say. In terms of the story, really, we're dealing, again, part of his apocalyptic trilogy. Really, you just got, like the synopsis I read from Terror on Tapes at the beginning, I think the most intriguing element, or a intriguing element, is Donald Pleasence, who plays the priest, reaches out to the scientific community. Professor Barack, played by Victor Wong, so it's really it is a combination between those two to really work together to bring resolution to the threat that is really the entire world is facing. And really, don't you love those Carpenter films where you got a kind of a ragtag group that is, the Thing, where it comes down to one or two characters, and really the entire fate of the world hinges on their actions or sacrifice. And you gotta love that, right, man? So Prince of Darkness, man. I hope it's a film that you do love. Oh, one thing, Showstrom, again, this is one of his films. Again, Evil Dead 2, Deep Star 6, Nightmare on Elm Street films, The Mutilator, Evil Dead 2. He worked with K&B. Of course, he's on here with the effects, the practical effects. The cinematographer Kib worked with Carpenter. They Live, Mouth of Madness, Vampires. So you got that too as well. So awesome movie. It's a movie in terms of Carpenter's filmography. It's one that has really of late in the last few years risen up quickly in terms of my level of appreciation for and my love for, my admiration and just intriguing concepts to unearth there in his film. Anyhow, so we're already hitting the 16-minute. Probably ought to cut this here. And if you haven't, I didn't check to see if this was still available for purchase, but check out Scream Factory site or Amazon and see if you can't get your hands on this if you don't have it. Calm before the storm. My dogs are getting ready to play for their second back-to-back national championship Monday night. We'll see what happens. Of course, we'll know what happened by the time you see this video, and I will know what happened. Now, I'll either be a very happy person or I'll still be grumbling, but it is what it is, right? That's why they play the game. And God bless TCU for the year they had. It's quite amazing, but we'll see what happens. And for the Bills, the receiver's doing, or not the receiver, but is he a safety? DeMar seems to be doing better and better, so thank God for that. Don't know if he'll ever play football again, but, just as long as he has his health back and his family back and he gets out of the hospital, that's all that really matters, right? Anyways, we always live these things off with, go Bills.
This is not a dream. Not a dream.